Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why the hell you mean so much to me. The intro to this film is forever burned into my mind. The juxtaposition of Andy to the supermodels and then using the song Suddenly I See by KT Tunstall is absolutely pivotal to the rest of the movie. This iconic film, The Devil Wears Prada, that came out almost 20 years ago, yikes, is still one of the best depictions of fucked corporate America, relationships, coming-of-age films, and a rocking costume department. I don't remember the first time that I watched this movie, but I do remember the weird journey that Andy goes through in the film. Andy, played by the amazing Anne Hathaway, who at this time had done Brokeback Mountain and Princess Diaries, was once again playing a, quote, ugly woman who was going to, very stereotypically, start working for a woman who only cared about fashion. Of course, at the time the movie came out, it was one of those coming-of-age stories that was about a woman going through amazing montage transitions of rags to fashion and gaining the approval of this woman that Andy originally thought was a terrible bitch. The only thing is that 8-year-old me agreed with this depiction of the film. An ugly girl becomes pretty, gains her boss's approval, learns about herself, but ultimately quits her job because of the stress and moves in with her boyfriend that loved her all along. That's what the film's about, right? Wrong. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s I showed this film to someone and we finished the movie and he asked me, why did she end up with that guy? He fucking sucks. I was absolutely shocked and then realized he was totally right. Mind you, we had watched every season of Mad Men 3 times all the way through, but of course our modern society should see Miranda's character as a fucking boss and Andy's boyfriend as some whiny ass little bitch that's not supporting his girlfriend at all. There's hints of this throughout the film with snide marks from side characters, but it's never fully pictured until the end of the film. There is that sad part of the movie that Andy still does move for her boyfriend, and Miranda is still seen as this bitch who's only in it for herself. No one learns anything, and things mostly stay the same. Of course, Andy just has a better style and self-confidence, I guess. I don't know if putting on some makeup and losing weight is the entire point to the film, but hear me out, this movie fucking rocks. So now that I got my personal issues out of the way, let's talk about why this is number 9 on my top 10 favorite films of all time. A lot of this film has been talked about in numerous YouTube videos, but some of the highlights of why this film is perfect is due to the realness of the characters. Mind you, I have never lived in New York, and I have never worked for any sort of journal world or even know the first thing about fashion. However, these characters feel like they're already in the world, and that Andy, as probably many people watching this film, are being introduced to a sort of fantasy world that lives all around us. She becomes integrated into this world that hardens her and has people around like Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci's character surprisingly helping her along, sort of like a fashion Hagrid and Draco Malfoy. Then that would mean Miranda, you think, is Lord Voldemort, but she ends up being Dumbledore. Hear me out, this makes sense. The realness of the character builds a world that the ordinary person can feel a part of and feel the sympathy of Andy's character, and mostly Miranda as an amazing woman herself. Stanley Tucci's character feels like Hagrid because he's sort of giving the tour into the magic fashion world of the magazine they work for and training her to tell her she's in the fashion world now. Her robes and outfits end up mixing her well into the workplace, but she does always feel like she doesn't entirely belong. Emily Blunt's character is someone who bleeds and breathes the fashion world and hates any outside mudbloods. Of course, it really just ends up being jealousy throughout the film because Andy ends up being Miranda's favorite. This meaning, of course, Andy is Harry Potter and Miranda ends up being Dumbledore. Obviously. Now that the Harry Potter analogy is out of the way, let's talk about another reason this film works well. This sort of upbeat background of the city and the music and the montages. It's kind of like how in Sex and the city itself is a character. The outfits in this movie are a character as well. Normally you could kind of ignore the costumes and drama and coming of age films because we're normally looking at how the character is changing with their confidence and their role in their business or work setting. The clothing montages literally create a sense of time change and how the character has changed drastically. I know those are normally a cheap trick that makes it so movies don't have to explain a bunch of stuff and some cool stuff happens with them and the characters learn so much, but the few montages in this film are just so well done. The intro scene that plays out with the juxtaposition of each model character and Annie completely sets the stage for her relationship to Runway. And then when she has her own montage changing outfit and learning her job, it's just like, ugh, so good. I swear to you, there is nothing better than these montages. Well, except maybe the best montage. This movie has some major issues, of course, especially during the time period that it was at, but it's definitely one of those coming of age stories that you can kind of take seriously. I understand the major issues with eating disorder, sexism, and ageism in the business world. However, it does seem that this movie tends to show that part of the world in a more serious light. Obviously, we know that Andy ends up following these and ends up with her boyfriend at the end. But every time I watch this movie, I learn something a little bit more about myself and about society. I love this film for all the details and the rewatchability and for the fact that I get to watch cute dress-up montages. If that's not something for you, then watch it for the amazing acting and the character development and the soundtrack. Oh, and be sure to check out, I guess they're making the Devil Wears Prada sequel. I have absolutely no idea what it's about, but definitely watch this movie first. And then while doing research, I also found out that they made a Devil Wears Prada musical that you can see in London, I guess. So a little strange, but yeah, fun stuff. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and thanks for everyone who helped make this video. Later, Gators. That's all.